Welcome back, everyone. Sorry, I thought we were going to go straight to the video. But anyways, we're going to have a little bit of a halftime show here. So let's go ahead and kick it away to the video.
Hi, guys.
Oh, hey, what's up, Maisel?
No, it's actually Mazel.
Ah, it's Maisel.
It's Mazel.
Oh, hey, what's up, Maisel?
Mazel tov.
Like gazelle. It's Mazel. It's like a gazelle. It's like look, Mazel. It's Mazel. It's Mazel.
You know, I've never seen Aatrox and Gamsu in the same room. I wonder what that's all about. I wonder if Zamudo would mind me calling him Zan. I think it's a pretty cool nickname. Do you think Perry is a platypus? I don't think a platypus could have mechanics like that, though. You know, I knew Winnie when he was Winston. We're cool like that. Those were the good days. I think that Webster's is gonna have to change the definition of insanity. Probably just do a picture of his face. Now, do you think Young ever gets tired of being labeled as Young? I know I would. Neo is Neo new to Academy. Ha! 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 If you had multiple links, would it be a chain link? Or would he just be links? I heard JJ doesn't like Mama Bear anymore. Makes me sad. He was a pretty good addition to the group. What a nice family. The sky is blue. Sometimes it's gray. Sometimes it's Skytech. How many licks of a lollipop do you think it takes for insanity to be labeled insane? I wonder how many meals Gamsu would make if he was out here on the safari. I wonder what his first dish would be. Well, those are just some thoughts I had. I've been grazing. Thank you to Gazelle. Really appreciate the thoughts, at least. I don't know if we need to have more of those, but
I appreciate Gazelle too. You know,
he's a true one. I feel bad they got turned into a gazelle, but I mean,
I'll pour one out for him.
Yeah,
There are definitely some of
did
them.
you take his horn? What? Magical.
Just one.
What? Hold on.
It's a unicorn.
So there were 3 horns, and they took the one, so now it's an actual gazelle. Okay, gotcha. Anyways, that was crazy thoughts. With a literal gazelle, I didn't know we had him on the broadcast team. But we also had
what's the gazelle's name?
Gazelle.
No,
Gazelle.
I think it should be Basil.
I think it should be Mazel. I think the gazelle's name should be Mazel.
No, I think it should be
Basil.
Basil.
That's how you started this whole thing. Anyways, we had a very one-sided game number 1. We're going to go and roll back some clips. It was a very fast game. Magical. We're going to have to get that bleached hair at some point. But, Joshi, just walk us through Dignitas' approach and that kind of show out here.
So this was honestly like the main play that we actually saw Dignitas make, right? It was the dive behind the turret where they were able to bring Neo and JJ from the bottom lane all the way mid. And then after that, it felt as though it was a lot of AoE trying to do things, but not necessarily committing to them. They're not necessarily able to find the right players that they actually need to hit, right? You notice that during this entire play, it's Perry who's taking all the damage, and eventually with Young actually trying to commit onto him, Insanity and Gamsu are just able to clean up, and I feel like that's been one of the big differences that we saw in this game thus far is Dignitas were consistently able to have the right players getting hit. They were able to have the tanks in front and then everybody else just free hitting throughout the rest of the fight. And by the time that AoE were coming around as individuals to try and hit the right targets, it was far too late. They weren't able to get these plays set up, and that is kind of the big difference that we've been seeing between the Academy and Amateur so far this year.
Well, and the thing I think that what's surprising the most here is the fact that we saw AoE, our third seed from Amateur, not play nearly as aggressive in the early game as we had seen the previous teams in the play-ins that were lower in seeding than them. All those teams really tried to take it to force to their opponent Academy team in the first 15 minutes of the game. And I expected the same thing from AOE. I thought that with a Olaf jungle, you look for these fights that Winnie loves to play that style where he looks for those early invades, but he just didn't have it there.
Yeah, and I feel as though this is not what AOE has typically brought to the games, and we've actually been seeing them have success in the amateur space, right? During the Proving Grounds circuit qualifiers, they tended to be much more proactive than a lot of the other teams. It was typically Winnie trying to make a lot of plays in the first couple of minutes. He would go for a 3-camp clear into gank, or a 5-camp to show up to a crab and have priority from one of his lanes, but that didn't really happen. He opted into this heavy farming style on the Olaf, and it's not necessarily what we were really expecting to see coming out from AOE, and it didn't seem to work. It was definitely a situation where, you know, when every single position ends up falling behind, you don't have a lot of recourse because you're just so much weaker than your opponents.
Yeah, I think you had to look at a lot of those early mistakes from AOE, but also a lot of the early decisiveness from Dignitas Academy. I think. Well, I know we didn't get the 1v5 Gamsu Aatrox play, but I'll take what we got.
Not a 1v4.
Yeah, I'll take what we got because I think the show up from Gamsu and a lot of the pieces that we had question marks about for Dignitas Academy showed out in this game.
Yeah,
exactly.
It was honestly a great showing from Dignitas. And as I said during the cast, I'm okay with being proven wrong. I was really questioning how well this Dignitas Academy roster was going to be going into Proving Grounds, having just formed a week ago, at least with all the parts that they have now. I was like, yeah, you know what? They might not necessarily be our strongest Academy team, not necessarily be the seeding that they had. And then they come out and get a perfect game in the first game. So thank you, Dignitas. I'm okay with being proven wrong, and my goodness, are you going to be terrifying in Proving Grounds?
Yeah. I mean, Dignitas, we should be realistic. We didn't have particularly high expectations for this team. They had recently gone 2-4 in the last Super Week. The only team that they had taken games off of was Immortals, and let's be real, Immortals is in this massive slump.
Yeah, I think obviously you got to look at a step up. It is best of 3, right? Still, obviously, a lot of wiggle room if you can win this game and have a little bit of progress forward for AOE Esports. But at least it is the first round. There's still the double elim as well. So I want to look ahead for this AOE roster, Joshi, and really dive into the strengths that, as you said, as a team we've seen, but as well as what we expect to see as a step up in the second game.
Yeah, I definitely want to see, in particular, Zamudo on something that can be a little bit more aggressive, right? Putting him on the Ornn into the Aatrox was a situation where he's not able to have as much kill pressure, right? He really needs to rely on Gamsu making mistakes, and I feel like if you put him on something like the Fiora or the Gwen or the Gnar, things that can be much more aggressive early on, it can give you this win condition up in the top side that we didn't ever see materialize.
Yeah. Magical, do you have any points on AOE, especially looking at like coming back into that second game after a pretty devastating?
Maybe they all need hats, right? Only Young was wearing a hat.
And like maybe that's what it is. Maybe that.
He's also wearing a mask.
Or I'm just gonna say the same thing I said before. Play aggressively. I just want to see them play aggressively in the first 10-15 minutes. I didn't see that. It was a power farm angle from Winnie, which is not my typical way to watch Winston and how he has been in a player. Zamudo having Ornn, and even having Ornn. I've seen him get solo kills on Ornn before, especially into Aatrox, because he'll play aggressively 1 through 5. We didn't see that in this game. We saw that he kind of was a little tepid in how he wanted to be able to play that, and then going into Young, I feel like I get the Zoe pick. I get that he's been really comfortable on that lately. But I also know you have a far bigger champion pool than that Young. And I think showing your hand that early, especially against someone like Insanity, who's more than comfortable playing an Azir into Zoe when Zoe might have some ways in the lane phase to get advantages, but Insanity is his best playing champ on Azir. Yeah, you gotta make sure you're counter picking him, not the other way around.
Yeah, I want to go into that matchup a little bit more because obviously it's going to be super integral in the next game. Even with some of those early fumblings, you can see that Young versus Insanity is going to be really where a lot of the pieces rely on, and especially into that draft, as you said, picking something that's a little bit different, picking something that may be a little bit more stable and sustained damage there, Joshi, for Young. I keep wanting to call him Young Mid, but I got to get the mid out of there.
That's not his name anymore.
It's not his name anymore. But especially against Insanity, as you said, I want to prop that matchup up a little bit more because this is a tough test for Young. But in all actuality, if you live up to a moment like this, that's huge. You get to take down Insanity, somebody who's been dominating Academy mid laners.
Yeah. And I definitely feel as though, right, obviously Insanity has been one of our better performing mid laners in the second round robin the past couple of weeks. He has gone from probably like a middle of the pack mid laner in Academy to arguably top 3. And for Young to try and challenge that right off the bat, it is a tough test. But we feel as though Young is one of these players that can potentially be up to it, right? We know he's been good on the Zoe. We know that he's had some very good laning phases and been looking for opportunities to be much more aggressive in the game. But we also didn't see a whole lot of support in the mid lane, right? He got ganks coming through from Perry before Winnie was really making anything happen. We saw that JJ came up and immediately took away his flash. We never really saw AOE do anything to try and build Young up, and as a player that has had a fair amount of success on other rosters that he's been playing on, I feel as though this is one of your ways to try and find some success. It really has been around the solo lanes that just kind of popping off that AOE has been finding a lot of their wins.
And I guess it's so hard when you see like the chaos that also just stemmed from a lot of these movements, a lot of the macro decisions from AOE. But that's where you look to the likes of Winnie, right? To try to have a hold on pace control in the game, and especially trying to find some stable ground to stand on, Magical, for AOE Esports.
For AOE, I'm just gonna. I feel like I'm just saying the same thing over and over again.
Don't
play
do
aggressively. You gotta play aggressively, guys. Come on, I know you can do it. I've seen you do it in the proving grounds.
But do you not think that could also come back to bite them? I think what I'm looking for, especially for Winnie, is like stability.
But it's better than what they put on that last game. I'd much rather they go out with a fight than they go over where they already roll over at 13 and a half minutes into the game.
Right, and I feel like there's a big conversation that we were having with Team Liquid, right? And their coach Spawn was saying, I would rather you lose a tightly contested and bloody 3-2 than win a clean and boring 3-0. And when we look at all these amateur teams, right, we have to come in with realistic expectations. They are, on average, they're not going to be beating most of the Academy teams in general. You have to come in and you have to put them outside their comfort zone. You can't just come in and play like these typical macro games against them, because they have better systems in place on average, right? Almost every single one of the Academy teams has been scrimming every single day with a much larger support staff that should be helping their players be better.
Exactly that. Well, the expectations are set and game 2 is ready to go. So let's go ahead and kick it away to pick and ban.
And we'll see if there is a bounce back at all for Immortals, for AOE. Sorry, if you don't know, it was Immortals AOE last split, so my brain kind of automatically went to that. But it's AOE Esports against Dignitas Academy, and the first ban, Draven, by AOE on blue side.
A little bit surprising, not gonna lie, right? I don't feel like we've been seeing a whole lot of Draven outside of as a counterpick to Zeri in particular, but you know what
saddens me about it? This is Zamuda played Draven top once, and I really wanted to see it happen again.
It could have happened. It wouldn't have been the most ridiculous thing, right? Zamudo does have a lot of oddball picks that he's got currently in his champion pool. And it's kind of impressive as well, seeing such a young player being able to play so many different things at a reasonably high level. He did play the Draven into the 9. They didn't end up winning that game, but he's also able to play all kinds of different things whenever he really feels like it. And with so much pressure already coming through up against what I'm expecting to be Neo's champion pool, I don't feel as though they've necessarily bit into his champion pool all that hard, right? No. He still has plenty of champions. I feel as though he has to have something ready to go into what is almost definitely going to be a Zeri pickup here for Lynx.
Yeah, the Zeri Jinx, those are the ones that are left open that kind of spring to my mind right away. The failures, I do get banning away from Neo. It has been really strong, but going to Lucian Nami, we've been seeing a lot of teams, when push comes to shove, especially when you have that Zeri left open, they tend to go to the solution.
Yeah, and it's definitely a spot, right, because we have shifted over from the 11-13 patch to the 11-14 patch, where potions have been nerfed and dragons are much more powerful than they were on previous patches. It does mean that the laning phase does mean more, and so this is one of those ways, Alex, that we were looking at potential aggression coming out early on in the game. Lucian Nami, incredibly aggressive, always looking to try and make these plays happen right off the bat, and it could actually give AOE an opportunity to play through the bottom lane.
It could, and that's actually kind of something I'm looking forward to. That aggression I was asking for right out of the gates, where they're trying to make sure they're making plays for themselves and not just rolling over and accepting the loss. They're actually being the team that sets everything up. And with Dignitas going back onto that Volibear for Perry, not too surprising, but the Jinx and not the Zeri, that's the one that's a bit surprising to me.
True. I mean, the Zarya is definitely more vulnerable than Jinx early on in the game, and so you do need a little bit more power to try and stand up to the Lucian Nami, which I'm expecting to get locked in right here. But Winnie going right on back to the Trundle, this is something that's definitely tried and true for them. And Dignitas, as they lock in the volley bear, it feels very status quo. I am expecting this Tahm Kench to come through in order to provide Neo the same kind of safety, especially up against the burst.
I was really just hoping for the Pyke, though. That would be quite the showdown in the bot lane, but this makes much more sense. You have a very aggressive level 2, level 3 bot lane in Lucian Nami. You need something that can kind of stand in front, absorb a lot of that damage for your Jinx, so you're not just getting rolled over right to begin with.
And so now we are going to be seeing Dignitas. They will have to play a little bit further back, you would think, based on the champion picks alone. There is a double range composition coming out for AOE and Lynx and Skytech, and this is definitely one of those spots where you start looking over towards players like Skytech, who was playing on Evil Genius's Academy as recently as spring, but was never quite able to build up the synergy with Kaori. How much aggression he's actually learned, how well he's going to be able to play with Lynx in order to try and push Neo and JJ around. Remember, the one time we really saw them interact in small skirmishes was when Neo was just basically 1v1ing Lynx.
Look at that Syndra ban here in the second part. Sorry to ignore what you're talking about. I think it's really interesting to kind of look at how Lynx and Skytech play, because we haven't really seen that proactivity out of them. But they got to step up now. And this is for every single lane. I look at every single position for AOE. With that Syndra banned by Dignitas, it is taking away a bit of comfort for Young, which to me indicates that Insanity is going to get counterpick.
I definitely expect that he's going to be getting counterpick at this point, right? It is something where you can just kind of pick something. The Azir has already been banned away, but we know that he's been willing to blind things like the Sylas fairly often as well. And so eventually, you know, one of the Dignitas solo laners are going to get counterpick. The other one is not going to be able to do that. They're going to have to blind it right now. So Dignitas, as Gamsu's the newer member, I'm kind of expecting them to give him counterpick. But instead, it's the Gnar.
Nah, I was about to say Gnar's open, bro. It's his most played champion. It's like, it's a no-brainer right there. His Aatrox might have these pop-off games, but the Gnar is something that he's incredibly comfortable playing in pretty much any stage of the game. And now, on the other side, you get a blind LeBlanc and Gangplank into Gnar.
This is one of Zamudo's most played champions so far during the Summer Proving Ground circuit. And now with the LeBlanc coming through, definitely looking to be very aggressive. You have a mix of comfort and aggression coming out from AOE, and now as Dignitas, they have the counterpick. It looks like Insanity's calling for the Rise yet again, the perfect pro-only champion to go up into Young. And so there's actually opportunities here for AOE to try and be very aggressive, try and find some of these early game plays, but it can't involve Winnie Power clearing up against Parry. He needs to try and make plays happen early in order to put some of these lanes behind.
And again, this goes into what your jungle plays best towards. Trundle and Olaf, I think, are some of the best skirmishing junglers that are in the game from the first few levels. They're so hard to deal with right out of the gates. Trundle, his chomp stealing some of your AD as well and getting him more powerful. And then the chase down he has on that, there's a reason why I said last time I wanted Winnie to play aggressively on Olaf. I want to see the same thing here. I want to see Winnie be that player that we know he can be and have seen just back in spring or even during the entirety of the summer PGCQs.
Yeah, and so now we are going to also get to see the top lane, right? You did say that it was the most played coming out from Gamsu, but I believe this is Zamudo's most played. And the Gangplank did also receive some nerfs fairly recently, right? With the changes to the way that crit scaling works on the champion, your trial by fire, your true damage burn passive doing a little bit more damage with scales with crit, but also reduced slows on your barrels and reduced crit bonuses when the barrels actually crit. And so it does make it a lot less damage when you actually go for these one-shot combos.
Unless?
There's just no unless.
Yes, there is. You've seen Bradley play it.
I have not.
Yes, you have. Prowler's Claw.
I don't remember it. You do less damage. It's a
no, Prowler. It's like you get the crit out of here. No crit, only lethality.
Oh, no, you do less damage that way.
No, you're just a coward, that's why. We're getting ready for the game. These players better not be cowards. They better be bringing everything to the table, especially for AOE Esports, with one game separating them from the lower bracket after Dignitas were able to get a flawless game outside of not getting Shelly to live and dance at the end.
The only flaw, right, was Shelly actually dancing, and so we will see how these two teams will be going through as we do. Looks like we have a bit of a scoreboard bug. Victor, also shoutouts to our lovely observers. We have Victor and Andy on the observing today, so we're not going to be giving Lauren any of the undue credit as Perry looking to be aggressive.
Gonna be able to get a little bit of that Sky Splitter damage onto Winnie, but the fact that you can't chase down any further, Winnie will just heal up naturally. Should be able to stay on the map.
Should be totally fine, but of course, it doesn't cost you anything to reset. You do want to get that red trinket anyway. And now AOE going to be moving back onto the map. Zamudo being very aggressive. This is something I remember seeing a lot more with players like Niles, who would love just taking these level 1 duels to the death up against Nars, trying to come in from behind. It's part of why players like Darshan have been starting to opt into the hop level 1 and the lethal tempo, which I have tried out fairly recently.
Well, of course
and we will talk about it more.
Nars, your favorite champion.
Yeah, but I didn't believe in it at all until I tried it.
Okay, that's fair.
And I was like, okay, I see why Darshan would like this, but Zamudo is only now realizing that Nar is there, and look at this, right behind Gamsu.
Right behind him. Should be able to wrap around, probably get a parlay, but nothing more. It's just pretty much trade back and forth, and top lane, bot lane, we even see a little bit of that action. Unfortunately for Lynx and Skytech, not going to get that level 2 spike that kind of lets them dictate control in this matchup.
Well, I guess it's not the worst thing ever, right? Because the wave is going to be coming in. Well, it's not that they've given up the level 2 just quite yet, but we should look down there a little bit, Victor, if we can, to see how well they're able to fight for the level 2. Because if they don't get the level 2, that lane is so much harder.
Exactly, and that's what I'm worried about. I'm already looking at... I'm just watching the CS.
Yeah,
look at
there
that.
it is.
2. You already see it just on the scoreboard. It's level 2s. Neo and JJ were able to get the control away from Lynx and Skytech, which makes that lane far more brutal for the Lucian Nami that should be able to normally to just play so aggressively right out of the gates.
Yeah, typically you're looking for them to be very aggressive at level 2, get enough of a health advantage immediately with the Electrocute proc coming through that they are able to play throughout a lot of the rest of the lane without a whole lot of actual contestation coming through from Neo and JJ. But at least Winnie is down here on the bottom side. They will be looking for opportunities to be aggressive here fairly soon, and they do have the Electrocute combo online if they do choose to go aggressive.
But look who's also here. Perry, right around the wings. The Abyssal Dive did not connect out of JJ, so that will be a fallback play as Winnie looks mid lane. Looks for Insanity. Nice flash away from the pillar. The flash is in, chomping him down right underneath the turret for first blood.
There we go. AOE already making the first play. The first blood
level 3,
coming through the mid lane.
Level 3.
I was very impressed with the flash coming through from Insanity. It was instant, not even getting knocked up by the pillar. And it still doesn't matter, right? They flash forward with Winnie. They get the slows. They get their root to come through. They take him down. And now Insanity needs to be careful because this lane is definitely one that can go very heavily in favor of LeBlanc.
As LeBlanc looks for a bit of a trade against Insanity. How's the Tear of the Goddess picked up for Rise? Pretty important for him to have, but all the while, he does have his own jungler, and that's why he feels a little bit comfortable escorting that wave into the turret of LeBlanc, knowing that Young doesn't quite have the damage just yet, the full combo burst him.
Not yet, yeah. Insanity can definitely walk up a little bit, and Perry taking away some of the jungle from Winnie gets them a small reward on the backside, but now this is where we... Yeah, this is where we start looking at how Insanity can continue to play. Because while LeBlanc can really take off when they get level 6, it doesn't happen yet.
Oh, Chain's missing, but they look for the bubble. They've got the Ignite. Dodging away from it. Insanity sidesteps, but he cannot sidestep from death.
But there we go. This is AOE. This is what we were looking for, right? Dignitas were the ones making these plays in the previous game. Dignitas should have saw it coming, but JJ not able to counter-rotate. We just see Skytech coming on up, not going for all the level 2, the 2v2 aggression in the bottom lane. Now he's the one who gets the flash and the kill out of Insanity.
And is this not what we had asked before for supports to also roam up? Skytech, the first one on the call this time around. There's a great play from AOE's bot lane, from their support, going mid lane, knowing, hey, Insanity is incredibly susceptible. No flash on Rise, not even level 6. You're pretty much just dead in the water anytime you push out even past the halfway point.
But there is one difference that we do have to look at, right? When Dignitas did it, they were able to push it up. They didn't lose anything. They weren't frozen on. The wave was still coming right on back. But this time, Neo, he was able to freeze the entire wave, but now he's choosing to give it up. This timing feels very odd to me, right? Dignitas had set up a perfect freeze. and it will barely crash, so Lynx will be able to get most of the farm. But that was the difference before, right? Dignitas lost absolutely nothing, whereas AOE lost about a wave in order to make that play happen.
Yeah, I am a bit surprised by that out of Neo as well. I know he wanted to get the reset to get that Noon Quiver, but as you said, does mean that Lynx will show up in the nick of time to be able to get most of the gold, as Young looks for the root on top of Insanity, but notice JJ right there in the shadows.
Not gonna be able to find anything there, but Insanity is doing a pretty decent job, like maintaining a relatively even farm this time around. And also in the top lane, Zamudo doing a decent job actually playing into this lane, right? You notice that he's gone for the first strike and going to be rushing what looks to be an Essence Reaver in order to be very aggressive. But Dignitas
Lethality.
rotate everybody up.
Good
You can still go at
lethality.
second.
No, full lethality.
No.
Yeah.
You don't do the damage on that build anymore, unfortunately. But now Dignitas,
Fine, go AP then. AP, GP, OP.
you do less damage on that build than lethality. But I'm actually a little bit surprised, right? Dignitas, they roamed up a little bit trying to find an opportunity, but they're not going to lose a whole lot for it, as they will recover all the waves in the bottom side of the map. But this is also the part of the game where Young, now that he's level 6, you start looking to be aggressive.
There we go. I like this from the bot lane out of AoE as well, using the calling once it gets off cooldown to try to get a lot of damage onto JJ. So Neo, JJ, they're struggling in this lane now. This is kind of what we needed to see out of Lynx and Skytech right out of the gates. It might just be a little bit delayed, but they are wrestling the control back for themselves.
Yeah, from a perfect game coming out from Dignitas the game before to now getting pushed around in multiple positions, this is a huge turnaround from AOE. They already have Winnie coming down to the bottom side. It's not ridiculous if they try and die, but for now they're just pushing Dignitas off the wave.
The next thing we have to see, we've seen these early games from amateurs before AoE. It's about how they can play in the mid game from here. They've got themselves not a huge lead, but about 1,000 gold that is over that of Dignitas Academy, getting themselves the first neutral objective of the game as well. It is a great shift for AoE compared to the last game.
And it does make me think back to when we actually saw teams like this play in collegiate events, right? Remember, Winnie, Lynx, Skytech are playing for University of Western Ontario for a long time. But we've also seen that teams like this playing up against University of St. Thomas, which will make a bit more sense when we watch Team Pending. They can have these big advantages. They can build up these big leads, but it's still going to be a macro difference a lot of the time.
Okay.
And now Insanity...
Chase. Nice flash again from Insanity as the pillar comes out, but again, pretty much off cooldown. It gets burned by Winnie.
Yeah, good stuff. And Winnie also has his flash this time around. They don't get the kill, but he still has opportunities to come back and make a repeat play. So this is going to be the difference, right? This is going to be the question that we have to ask. Is Dignitas going to be able to turn it around with the macro game a bit later on? They're not going to be starting up the Rift Herald, and they have Cryo in 2 lanes.
Well, no, they are starting up the Rift Herald. Perry is on top of it right now. They've got priority, as you said, in those lanes. But I'm surprised we haven't seen Insanity and JJ rotate up just yet, nor have we even seen AoE try to answer finally. It'll be Winnie poking his nose into the river and seeing that it's down to almost a quarter health. On for reinforcements, but they might be way too late. With the Abyssal Dive getting distance away, so Winnie can't even contest.
Yeah, Dignitas doing a good job picking that up, but it is going to be matched a little bit, right? Even though Neo's going to be grabbing the Scuttle Crab here in just a moment, he's losing a wave on this turret. The cannon will save some of it, but he's not able to even get down to kind of build up that gold lead that we were seeing him do a decent job of before. Getting pushed off the first wave, trying to rotate for the Herald now. That's going to be 3 waves that Neo's already missing out on, and Lynx taking control of a lot of these plates.
3 plates as well picked up for Lynx. That is a huge chunk of gold now into the pockets of the ADC for AoE. As we look at AoE, playing for that mid lane. No flash. Insanity just they got the tent pitched up in mid lane. You got no choice.
This is fantastic. Winnie is coming mid over and over again, punishing the rise, the lack of mobility. And now, this is the big play to come through, right? Winnie already with a big lead. 2 kills, does need to be very aggressive on the map. I want to start seeing Young rotate around. He has so much pressure that they've already built here. Now is the question, can they start finding the lead in the top lane? Can they start finding kills in the bottom lane as well?
The double chains there as well from Young that we see from the replay. The first one barely clipped Insanity, and so you got to feel a little bit bad for Insanity. You probably thought the minions were enough to protect him. But all in all, it's like you said, but now struggling from this mid lane. You got a lot of attention from Young, and I want to see them set up the 1-3-1. It's a very powerful composition that this team has, and as you called out, if they can get that earlier on, they can start to really stranglehold Dignitas from never really getting any gold.
Yeah. Gamsu, though, also doing a good job up in this top lane. Remember, though, that because Zamudo is playing Gangplank, he will be ahead in gold just on account of playing the champion and not being that far behind. And...
Okay.
Got him.
Yeah,
Forcing him to stick around.
He forced him to stick around, but he also did take a good chunk of damage for it, with this Rage Bar being popped.
It doesn't matter. The Rage Bar will just allow him to clear out this wave relatively quickly. And remember, Gamsu is also one of these players that has had a very fascinating career to watch, right? Obviously, we can talk about his time on the Shanghai Dragons, where he was playing for Overwatch and was a world champion there. We can also talk about how he came back, was playing for 100 Thieves Next, 100 Thieves Academy, before moving directly on up to the LCS over a very short stint that he had in the minor leagues.
And now back in amateur, in Academy, facing up against Amateur. This seems like something that he's had to do many a time, and when he's called into action, he always performs very well. We saw that last game. Looking at him on the Snar in this game. So far, he's gotten a pretty good control, and now Insanity. Nice sidestep, but they've got him pinned. They've got him controlled. Nice devour by JJ, who sure to keep him alive and kicking.
There you go, coming in from JJ, making sure that there's going to be no kills coming through, and so Insanity should be able to clear out this wave. And now we're seeing the counterplay. Ooh, the Rocket barely missing Young, but they pick up the bottom lane turret. They're giving a lot of money right on over to Neo, and as they crash into the second turret, Dignitas, they don't lose a whole much on that play, and they get the bottom lane turret.
That is a good play for Dignitas. The fact that mid lane play looked a bit dicey at first, but Young JJ saved his life. Young nearly got taken out, and then they popped out Rift Herald bot lane. Huge swing of gold that keeps them within that 1,000 gold mark.
And so now we start looking at the setups for the objectives, right? There wasn't a whole lot of opportunity for either team to really play for the previous dragon. It was just going to be AOE picking that one up because of the power of their lanes. But now Dignitas can answer back. Neo's already got the Kraken Slayer completed. They already have members coming through, and there's a teleport coming in from Gamsu.
Oh, nice pillar. Cuts off the retreat for Perry. Perry just walks around it. He's a big old bear. Not afraid of no trolls.
Not yet.
Not yet, not ever. Is a bear against a troll? Who would win? I think a bear would win. At least that's just me personally. But now, look at this.
Depends on the troll.
It does depend on the troll and it does depend on the bear. He's right there. Looks like Winnie is getting a good chomp, but you got to be careful with that Sky Splitter. Gonna pop Subjugate, chase him down. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe it is the troll toll that he's got to pay as he jumps over the wall and parry. He'll survive to see another day, but the dragon will be AoEs.
Yeah, and it's very difficult for Dignitas to walk in at this point, right? Insanity is trying to find his way back in. They do see Perry.
Yeah, Young chasing him down, saying, you are not allowed in here. You are gone. Stay away. This is ours. A counteracted play coming in from Dignitas. Flash away from JJ as Young makes sure he's on a killing spree as Lynx is left out to dry. This is dire. Winning by himself. It's stolen away by Perry. Gnar ult into the wall. Gamsu's Gnar, man. Always count on it. Always count on him being in the right place, right time to set up his team. And somehow Dignitas pull off quite the heist.
And overextension coming in from AoE, resulting in the dragon going over to Dignitas, and Gamsu in the right place at the right time, also going to grab this big wave crashing into the turret. 2 more kills effectively going over to Gnar as the bottom lane turret falls. Zamudo not able to take the top lane turret. That is a huge win coming in from Dignitas, even though Perry... Oh, Perry doesn't even fall.
Now Zamudo does not understand what happens when you fight off against Rise or Tom Tench. Look for the gobble. Just the tongue lash will take him down.
Oh my gosh, so many kills suddenly getting picked up for Dignitas, just punishing overextensions coming through from AoE, right? You had so many members of AoE diving away from the dragon as one man at a time. Lynx is the first one to try and dive forward onto JJ, and they do pick up. Oh, this is the one that actually died, right? Young was able to go down, but Dignitas, they now have all of their members together, and they can just fight the 2v4. It's so difficult for AoE to walk back in.
Exactly. I think that they just needed a hard commit for the Dragon, a commit for the objective, then turn afterwards. So you all are on the same page. Winnie was wailing away at the Dragon that entire time, so you lost a whole team, whole members worth of damage onto some members, plus Lynx. Too squishy to be going that aggressively into a composition that is kind of built to slow down the pace and make sure you can't even get near them.
Now AOE, this is when we should start looking for Young to be aggressive up against Gamsu, get some big damage, but Gamsu not going to be taking any crap.
Well, he did lose his turret while watching. Now Zamudo, he's up against Insanity, and we saw last time what happens when you try to kite back his gangplank into Rise. It does not happen.
Doesn't happen. Now Dignitas, credit to Young, right? I thought he was going to try and play up against Gangsu, but you did call out he did, in fact, find the turret, which is worth a bit more gold and permanent map control, but it is getting matched right now from Dignitas on the rest of the map. As Insanity going to be crashing this Rift Herald, they will take down another turret, and Dignitas a little bit more proactive here in the middle part of the map.
And isn't that what we've seen from a lot of these Amateur versus Academy teams? Once we get to the mid game, it seems that Amateur does struggle into Academy. They have the macro down, they have the ways to move around the map. They just look a little cleaner, but Young tries to look for Neo without the gangplank, not without the gangplank, without the Dom catch on top of him. He does dodge away. Is really sneaky with how he used that mimic.
Good job from Young to keep himself alive, but gotta be careful, right? JJ, as long as he's around, it makes the LeBlanc's job very, very difficult. So, as we start to back away, now we can start paying attention to how people will set up for the next Dragon. Remember, AOE did a really good job. They forced Perry away from the Dragon. They created a lot of space where both Insanity and Perry were struggling to walk in, but then they gave it up, trying to dive for kills.
Sometimes it's risky to go for that. I always love the aggro plays, but sometimes you gotta know when it's right to fight and when it's right to just take the objective and run. For Dignitas, they've gotten themselves back in the game with a pretty significant lead, even if it's only 1,000. They were down 1,000, so that's a shift overall of 2,000 gold that now favors our Academy team.
Yeah. Also so satisfying when you just watch the blah 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 of all like the Rise spell flux come through.
It's always such a great thing to watch.
And now he's got to be careful. Yeah, especially just in that line, but he's also got to be careful. There's a lot of members of AOE, and remember for some of the other Dragons that we saw in Game 1, AOE, they were trying to make plays on Insanity right before the actual Dragon was spawning, and so now Dignitas are here first. They should be able to take mid priority. They should be able to create some pressure here, and Gamsu also just poking his head around, right? Just trying to see if there's anything he can pick up for free.
All right, so the game has slowed down for just a bit here. Not quite that accelerated pace that we saw the first few minutes for AOE or the last game for Dignitas. So we're looking at both teams and how they're trying to position around. I'm looking at Dignitas.
Yep.
What's up?
I was going to say, they have position, and here comes the teleport from Gamsu. No rage.
No even answer. Look at Young. Look at Zamudo. They're not even trying to see if they can rotate around. Instead, Lynx, Skytech, they do survive all by themselves.
Yeah, good disengage coming through from AOE, but they lose mid-prio. They don't have a push in the top, or they do now. Young is going to take it down, but the mid lane turret already opened up, means that Dignitas in firm control.
Dignitas will get that tier 1 turret in mid lane. Very important one for themselves. Should be answered with the top lane turret for Young, getting himself more gold on this LeBlanc. As you called out before, it is risky. You have all this gold onto your LeBlanc, but then your target is simple. Kill the Jinx. But when you have JJ on Tom Kench, it makes your job so much more complicated.
You sound like the Joker. All you gotta do is kill the Batman.
I mean,
that's all you gotta do. It's just it's so simple. It's so easy.
I just said it's not that easy. I just said it's more like the Riddler, man.
Oh, all right. Okay, we'll take it. But we'll see. Young trying to kill the other Batman.
Looking for Insanity as he got away, but the Pillar might make sure that he's not gonna die. JJ, how does he keep doing it? They got one kill, traded back with a shutdown for Lynx. But how much time was bought for Dignitas here in the top side of the map? Look at what's happening. Perry and Neo are booking it to try to see if they can catch up to these low health members. Skytech does not have much to fight back with, and Perry can dive into the back line. Can't even be interrupted by the Pillar nor the Subjugate. It's not really worried. The flash comes in from Perry onto Lynx with the TP behind, jumping past them, looking for the defenses. Flash away from Lynx, but JJ's on the hunt. Same with Neo. Who's going to die first? It will be Neo. No excitement today. And Zamudo, perfect placement with a bubble kill on to JJ, making all the kills you need for AOE.
It's traps back and forth, activating trap cards right and left, and Dignitas now have to try and defend the Baron. Oh, never mind, they don't. As everybody backs away.
Yeah.
Okay. I saw 2 people running down. I was expecting to see the teleport from Young. Doesn't come through, but it comes out right. JJ already around trying to defend Insanity. And he does a good job keeping him alive for as long as possible. But the rotate that you already called out coming through from Neo and Perry, they're a little bit late. They wanted to get those last couple of minions, and it takes them too long to actually get here, which gives time for Zamudo to find the teleport with the minion lane is so deep into the lane. And at that point,
I love this turn onto Neo too.
Yeah, well, I was saying earlier that like that's not the kind of thing that Neo does. He doesn't go forward very often in that kind of way, and so he goes a little bit too far forward because he recognizes that the only way to get out is to go forward. You gotta kill people before Zamudo closes the trap.
And unfortunately for Neo, was not able to get excited. Couldn't get the resets needed to outplay that fight. Fell too soon, and this gives AOE, again, back the gold lead, even if it's only minuscule, at 21.5 minutes. An amateur team here who just got perfect game by Dignitas. Keep that in mind. This is a team that does not have as much support as the Academy teams have. They don't quite have the backups that they need, the analysts to kind of break down everything. Sure, they got coaches, and sure, they have some people behind the scenes that can help them, but not nearly to the degree of Academy. So when you bounce back from a game after you just got perfect game, that could sometimes be mentally taxing.
Oh, for sure. It's really difficult a lot of the time for the amateur teams to win games after the first one, because you come in and your opponents aren't necessarily ready for you, but they have a better measure of you by the time you actually get into the second game. And so the fact that AOE are bouncing back now is happening at the perfect time. If they can actually win this game, it can give them momentum to actually take down Dignitas, but that's still the big if. They don't control the Dragon, or the Baron rather, at this point, and now Perry can kind of run out.
Has to use the ult just to get away though. Nice pillar from Winnie. That is a big cooldown burn by Dignitas. This gives a good window for AOE to try to regain that control around Baron.
Oh, Winnie.
Winnie though.
Winnie, no flash.
No flash. Subjugates out. Bubble not going to help out. Tries to get away from the Sky Splitter. The rocket doesn't even need to be there, but they're going to be able to trade back for 1-for-1. And now Young in a horrible position as he gets caught out. 2-for-1 for Dignitas.
AOE just not lined up. Their battle lines aren't ready to go.
No, but maybe Lynx is. They got the Devour out of JJ, and that is even using the cannon for us. Be careful though. Look at Gamsu. He's getting that rage bar up.
Teleport from Insanity.
He's got it. The flash
nice
from Gamsu from downtown dunk. And it's got to be a little bit cautious though. They only lose 1-for-1 at the moment. Realmwarp on the other side. Lynx, you got to get the damage onto Insanity. Nice use of the blast cone. Wait, somehow it's a burn onto the Jinx on the other side coming in from Zamudo as Lynx is walking away. But with that
So
ghost
fast.
pump, he is so speedy. Relentless pursuit to get the distance, but he's not got nearly the amount that he needs to. The slow and the killing spree for Insanity.
There we go.
Oh,
now
no.
they have to run away
That's
again.
done. When he's back up. Wait, this has happened quite a few times already in Proving Grounds. Okay, it will relent for now, but we saw yesterday that we had a lot of plays like this.
Oh yeah, lots of back and forth, teams running at each other. It's like, oh, you can't do that. Oh, I have another person. Oh, let's go. And now it's Dignitas. They're going to be having most of their members back in time for the upcoming Dragon. But as we watch this play through, we get to see just how much damage is actually coming through from a lot of these players, right? Young blowing up Harry, as Neo is also already able to start shredding through Trundle's HP bar. But the big thing to watch out for here is, again, just like how well JJ is able to create space. He was doing this for Spawn before. He's been doing this for Neo. We've been seeing this from Diamond in his Tahm Kench play quite a bit.
Well, as we go back to live, we got to be careful because Winnie grabbed up by the combo again, and he's bursted down.
Dignitas in firm control of the Dragon Pit. That's no smite contest. Young has to be the one to try and steal it if he wants to.
They gotta hope for something, because right now it is burning. It isn't Soul that will be picked up by Dignitas, but it will be a slam into the back line from Dignitas. Gamsu sets up the hero play for the team, not only to get the Baron, but 3 kills on top of it. They got the kill earlier onto Winnie, and you better bet they're booking it for the Texan Bulwark.
Oh yeah, just going right on in. That's the second time Gamsu setting up a fight. He just showing up right now when he most needs to. Going to be looking for an opportunity to take down this Baron, and Winnie, it was looking so good for him early on. He had 3 consecutive gangs onto Insanity. 2 of them resulted in kills, but now the game has fallen apart. Zamudo not able to find purchase in the game, even though he's got your favorite brawler as well.
Insanity was 0-3 to start this game. He had been camped so efficiently that he pretty much had very little chance to get back into this game. And look at how he's bounced back. 7, 4, and 7.
Doing such a good job. And oh, that's how Gamsu got the rank. He bounced off a parry. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. I didn't realize how far he actually had gone, but at this point, Dignitas with 3 dragons to the name, they got the Baron, they have control. The gold lead finally going over their way, and academy teams once again preventing the amateur teams from able to have an opportunity to go further. The game's not quite over, but it's all on Young at this point. You look at this position and you think to yourself, who can potentially carry? It's got to be on the mid laner, LeBlanc. They gave them so many resources to start the game. As you said, 0-3 Insanity.
Now he's down in gold to Insanity. First big break of gold that separates the 2 teams at almost 3,000 for Dignitas, most of which is on to Insanity's head. Same with Neo. Getting some resets for himself, getting into a better position into these fights. Even if you look at AOE and know they do have some good ways of fighting here in the late game, it is going to be difficult to get past the Rise, the Jinx, the Tom Kench, even Gnar.
Yeah. So as they start going for all of this pressure, remember how much control Dignitas can actually put out during a lot of these plays. As the cannons start lining up, you start to see that AOE, they need to bring everybody to try and defend this, and Young trying to wave clear, but the damage he puts on the cannons means that it's not going into champions.
Same with Lynx. It's really difficult as Gamsu is able to escort away mid lane. They should lose both of these inhibitor turrets pretty much for free without having to have a fight. AOE, they got to mount a little bit of a defense, because right now it does seem like even if it was later into the game, the same fortunes are unfolding for them where it's come to the late game. They don't have a chance. They don't have any way to fight back, and they're too timid to even start one off.
I mean, they don't even have great tools for it, right? It is just a run-at-you kind of composition, and LeBlanc, when you go for these straightforward, straight up the pipe style engages, that's not the way that LeBlanc likes to play. Young needs to try and find a different angle, take people by surprise, and then just a cannon barrage will allow Winnie to run in, but that's about it.
Calling you, trying to get some damage, even a nice pillar. They can't follow it up just yet. Realm warp to safety. Insanity is living up to his name as he gets everyone out scot-free.
And 2 inhibitors off the Baron buff. That's a pretty successful Baron coming out from Dignitas already. 5,000 gold in the lead. Now they set up. It's a minute and a half left into the Ocean Dragon. And even if Dignitas are going to be waiting there for a little while, you just need to pull AOE out of their base. You need to pull them into a position where they need to come in and fight you. Because we just saw they don't have the tools to actually get fights started.
No, and Dignitas, I think you know this. They're playing patiently. They've got good scaling on their team. They've got good macro on their side. They can even wait for that soul if they want a place where they know that AOE will have to fight them at. Somewhere they have to go in order to make sure it's not just going to be a lost game right from that one little dragon.
Oh, Winnie.
Too far out, but he has flash this time around. Could be able to get away. Subjugate still not popped, but that's going to be a tidal wave in. Young is looking to see if he can get onto the backline, get a little bit of damage onto Parry, but the flash comes in onto Lynx as he uses his cleanse. Neo over the wall, excited. They've got the damage. Gamsu's in the middle of the pit, but he's gone golden, and now SkyTech will be the one to fall to Insanity. A nice knockup comes in from JJ. Double kill for Insanity. They've got everybody. Neo is excited. Winnie is dead, and Dignitas reigns supreme.
And Dignitas, I thought this was going to be one of our closer series. This is how I thought these games were going to be looking. AOE, even with the 3 kills they get into Insanity to start the game, as you said, he bounces back 0-3 to 10-4 and 8 coming in for Insanity's Rise. Dignitas making a statement win in the second game.
That is a great showing for a team that we didn't have that much hope for at the beginning of the day with all these roster swaps. They look far more like a cohesive unit. Perfect game in the first game. Second game was a little bit more dicey in the early game, but once they found their foothold, they pretty much put pedal to the metal.
And there we go. Well, that's kind of what we're expecting at the end of it, right? We have our top 4 academy teams playing against some of our weaker amateur squads at the moment. This isn't the full strength that we're going to be seeing from amateur, and so we should still be looking a little further down the line for a lot of our amateur wins to potentially be coming out from. It's not over. It's not all doom and gloom for amateur just quite yet. We saw what they can do. Let's see if they can clean it up even further as we go deeper into the tournament.
Yeah, but we got to get to a break first, as well as our interviews. So let's toss it out. Let's get ready for that interview. Let's get ready for the next best of 3 as well. We'll see you on the other side.
Welcome back to the Verizon post-game interview. I am joined by the mid laner of Dignitas Academy after a resounding 2-0 victory. Insanity, my man. What a way to step up in the moment, to be able to shine, and especially for Dignitas to take out, I feel like a much-needed confidence win here to kick off Proving Grounds. Talk to me a little bit about the series. I want to talk about, the early smash in game number 1 and then coming back in game number 2.
I mean, honestly, going into this series, I thought it'd be really easy, which, it pretty much was, outside of the fact that the second game I got a little bored, kind of started running it down. But the entire time I was just telling my team, it's fine, we'll still win. So, I don't know, it was a fun series at least.
I want to go into that a little bit more, that mindset, because you were talking to me before we went live and telling me a little bit about, it's calm and cool in moments like that where you're seeing AOE Esports get a lead early on in game number 2.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about, kind of the communication structure within the team, especially with the newer parts, and how you kind of kept cool heads. Was it just you saying easy vibe?
It was literally as simple as me saying, guys, it's fine. We're going to be fine. We're going to win. But honestly, I think the macro difference is just too much for, amateur and academy. Their comp is kind of on a timer, so I don't know. I wasn't really too worried.
So I guess going further for Dignitas Academy, obviously this is a big confidence victory, 2-0 to go into the next round, but we were obviously having a lot of questions with the roster coming to Proving Grounds, with a lot of the shakeups, a lot of the promotions, and things along those lines. So how have you, Insanity, been kind of keeping the team together as one of the pieces with JJ, who has kind of stuck around?
Honestly, obviously, it's difficult to have such a big change going into pretty much the end of the season straight into playoffs, and he's also coming from amateur straight into academy. So I don't expect it to be really easy at the beginning, though I do think he's playing a lot better than we started out with. We've only had a couple days of scrims pretty much, but I think he's really eager to learn and he learns really fast. So I think with all of the sort of veteranship on this team, I think he's meshing really well together with us, and I think with more time, we will definitely be a contender.
I like it. Speaking of more time, you got more time in the upper bracket here for Proving Grounds. Do you have any thoughts on the competition we've seen so far, and maybe a little bit of what to look forward to for you?
I think we played against FlyQuest. Was it last week? Either last week or 2 weeks ago, and they kind of stomped us, but I don't think we were all really there mentally. So I think it was a little bit of a fluke, but I'm looking forward to rematching them and giving it our all.
Okay, I like to hear it. Well, I want to give you one last little bit. Give any shout outs, anybody you want to talk about here before we let you go?
Shout out Mervin or Deos, it's just Coach Cap, and also shout out Juan. He's the GOAT. Juan or JJ.
Appreciate you so much. Yeah, give a little shout out JJ at the bottom. Thank you so much, Insanity. Appreciate you, and get ready for some more competition the rest of Proving Grounds.
Thank you.
All right, I'll bring back Joshi